It's 10 o'clock. This is Sky News at 10. Happy Christmas to you. Our top stories tonight. The King calls for kindness, compassion and hope in his Christmas broadcast and pays tribute to the wartime generation.
The way communities came together in the face of such great challenge carry a timeless message for us all.
Before that, the King and Queen led members of the royal family to their Christmas church service at Sandringham. Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie were in attendance, but their father, Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, was not invited. Also ahead, the Coast Guard stands down its search for two men missing in rough seas off Devon. And Pope Leo urges the faithful to reflect on the plight of Palestinians and migrants in his first Christmas homily. Plus, we'll take a first look at tomorrow's front pages. That's coming up in our press preview from 10:30. Hello, good evening. We begin with a personal message from the King about the need for kindness, compassion and hope in times of uncertainty this Christmas. During his annual Christmas broadcast, the monarch referred to division both at home and abroad and reflected on the importance of learning from the wartime generation, paying tribute to their courage and sacrifice. Before that, the King and Queen led members of the royal family to their Christmas church service at Sandringham in Norfolk, but there was no sign of Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor, as our royal correspondent Rhiannon Mills reports.
On a morning that is all about family, the Windsors walking to church showed a united front. Alongside the King and Queen, the Prince and Princess of Wales and their children, Princess Beatrice and Princess Eugenie with their husbands, the daughters of now Andrew Mountbatten-Windsor.
Merry Christmas.
It was a sign of how the family have really rallied round them in what has again been a difficult week of headlines about their father and the hardest year. The King's brother notably absent from the celebrations.
It's quite difficult for them. I think they've done all right, taking all his titles away.
I think he's been very naive, very stupid, but I do think it's... I think they've made they're getting to the point now where it is victimisation.
It is such a difficult thing to keep united on, and it's not united at the moment.
This is what the King would rather was the focus. His Christmas message recorded inside Westminster Abbey about togetherness and hope, and how in difficult times we should learn from the past, using the example of the wartime generation.
The courage and sacrifice of our servicemen and women, and the way communities came together in the face of such great challenge, carry a timeless message for us all. These are the values which have shaped our country and the Commonwealth. As we hear of division, both at home and abroad, they are the values of which we must never lose sight.
There is also the heaviest emphasis on bringing communities closer together, showing kindness and compassion.
To this day, in times of uncertainty, these ways of living are treasured by all the great faiths and provide us with deep wells of hope, of resilience in the face of adversity, peace through forgiveness, simply getting to know our neighbours, and by showing respect to one another, creating new friendships.
The appearance of the Songs of Ukraine chorus singing Carol of the Bells, based on a song by a Ukrainian composer, helping to emphasise his message.
It matters to us. It's our traditional Christmas song, which was translated into English, and we sang it in English. So for me it was really special. The acoustic was absolutely amazing. When you sing, you feel like you're flying. Your sound flies far away.
In a very current edition, pictures of the aftermath of the Bondi Beach attack feature alongside the King's visit to the scene of the Manchester synagogue attack as he praises the world's unexpected heroes.
This year, I've heard so many examples of this, both here and abroad. These stories of the triumph of courage over adversity give me hope. From our venerable military veterans to selfless humanitarian workers in this century's most dangerous conflict zones.
While he doesn't mention specific events, it is clear that this is a king who really wants to make his own personal mark when it comes to healing divisions both here in the United Kingdom and also around the world. The palace describe it as an outward-looking rather than inward-looking message at what has no doubt at times been a difficult year personally for the royal family. Leaving church, there was no sign of the strains they faced. They are used to putting on a brave face, especially on big occasions. There was reassurance from their husbands for Beatrice and Eugenie. But ultimately, this was again a day to put on a public display, mix with the crowds, get into the festive spirit, and hope that at least for one day, other members of the family could be the centre of attention. Rhiannon Mills, Sky News.
Well, religious leaders have used their Christmas services to deliver messages on global issues, including war and immigration. Our correspondent Dan Whitehead has this report.
As 2025 draws to a close, conflict and division that looks set to continue was the focus of Christmas Day messages. At the Vatican, thousands gathered to hear Pope Leo deliver his first Christmas address.
Let us not allow ourselves to be overcome by indifference towards those who suffer, for God is not indifferent to our distress. In becoming man, Jesus took upon himself our fragility, identifying with each one of us. With those who have nothing and have lost everything, like the inhabitants of Gaza. With those who are in hunger and poverty, like the Yemeni people. And for those who are fleeing their homeland for a better future elsewhere, like the many refugees and migrants who cross the Mediterranean Sea and the American continent for a better future.
As Christmas Day began, many gathered in Manger Square in Bethlehem. While in Gaza City, worshippers gathered under ceasefire for a midnight mass.
This year is a little bit different compared to past years. This year we feel relatively safe. The strikes have stopped, or they are far from where we are. The past 2 years were very tough.
Here, the Archbishop of York revealed he was intimidated by Israeli militia during a visit to the Holy Land this year and was prevented from visiting Palestinians in the West Bank.
As well as thinking about the walls that divide and separate the Holy Land, I'm also thinking of all the walls and barriers we erect across the whole of the world, and perhaps most alarming, the ones we build around ourselves.
The incoming Archbishop of Canterbury, Dame Sarah Mullally, addressed those at St Paul's Cathedral in her current role as Bishop of London. Economic pressure and immigration, her focus.
Our national conversations about immigration continue to divide us when our common humanity should unite us. Families struggle to secure housing, and the complexities of assisted dying challenge our understanding of what it means to live and die well.
Amid societal challenges, a fragile ceasefire and ongoing conflicts, this was a moment for religious leaders to call for compassion. And for many, a time to pause and remember. Dan Whitehead, Sky News.
Well, to Devon now, where the Coast Guard has stood down its search for 2 men missing in rough seas. People were taking part in a Christmas Day swim near Exmouth when emergency crews were called. That's shortly before 10:30 this morning. Well, some of the swimmers were helped to the shore at Budleigh Salterton Beach and checked over by paramedics. A number of Christmas and Boxing Day swims in Devon and Cornwall had been cancelled because of a yellow weather warning for wind. Well, let's bring in our correspondent Sajid Chowdhury, who joins me here. Deeply worrying for families, certainly. So what do we know of the conditions and what the Coast Guard and police have said?
Well, just looking at these pictures, you can see just how choppy that water is. There has been a yellow weather warning in place for wind over the southwest of England. And so the Coast Guard, the RNLI and local swim groups were sort of encouraging people not to go for the traditional Christmas Day swim. And in fact, some swims did go ahead. There's one about five minutes down the road from those pictures that we showed you, which went ahead without incident this morning. But there on Budleigh Salterton, when swimmers went out, and a call was placed to the emergency services that people were in trouble in the water. When they arrived, they helped some people out of the water and said that some of them needed treatment by paramedics on the beach. Others were taken to hospital as a precaution. But 2 men remained missing, and they remain missing tonight. One in his 40s, one in his 60s. So a devastating Christmas for those families who have been contacted by the police. The police urging tonight people not to go for swims, even though they say there isn't an official warning over the weather for tomorrow. They're still saying that if you had planned a Boxing Day swim, not to go ahead with that. The local Coast Guard has said that it has stood down its search operations for this evening. Of course, it is dark, not much visibility out there. The police are continuing their inquiries on land, but the notice is don't go swimming tomorrow. The weather conditions still not right for that swim, and the Met yellow weather warning for wind is in place until midnight tonight.
Sajid, thank you. Well, Southern California has been hit by another powerful storm and heavy rain. A day after flooding and gusty winds forced hundreds of people from their homes. Forecasters fear the additional rain could increase the risk of debris flows in waterlogged areas, scorched by wildfires, of course, last January. Around 150,000 people in California had no power earlier today. A woman in her 80s has died following an assault inside her flat in Wiltshire. Police were called to the home on Keepers Road in Devizes not long after 8 o'clock this morning. A 63-year-old woman who is known to the victim has been arrested on suspicion of murder, and detectives say they're not looking for anyone else in connection with the death. Russia says it is seeing slow but steady progress in Ukraine peace talks with the United States. It follows President Zelensky's unveiling of additional details about his draft proposals, which were developed in collaboration with the Americans. It is unclear whether negotiation teams have been in talks today. Well, there have been scenes of joy in Dublin as Irish peacekeepers returned home for Christmas from Lebanon. The troops have been serving with the United Nations, helping to protect civilians living under the threat of war. Sky's Ireland correspondent Stephen Murphy has more.
Home for Christmas. Irish UN peacekeepers returning from a fraught mission in Lebanon.
Say hi. Long 6 months. You can't be coming home. It's not like being at home in Ireland. Just looking at it from the plane, seeing all your family. 6 months, long time.
But the traditional sight of Irish peacekeepers flying back to Dublin could be consigned to the past. Around 30,000 Irish troops have served in the UNIFIL mission in southern Lebanon since 1978. But under Israeli and US pressure, the UN is ceasing those operations over the next year. It's the end of an era for generations of Irish soldiers.
It's important to us as Irish to be there. Like, we're there 47 years. My dad served there, my son has served there, I've served there, I have 2 missions there now. So it's, we're going to miss it.
The problem is that the Irish Defence Forces are supposed to be attracting new recruits and expanding, just as the biggest lure is being taken away.
So do you think it poses an issue that you're losing probably the most prestigious or the most enticing aspect of joining up?
Yeah. I know overseas is a huge attraction to people joining the Defence Forces, but there are other positives as well with joining the Defence Forces. And I know both the military and the Department of Defence are actively seeking out other missions that hopefully the Irish Defence Forces will be able to undertake in the future.
Could that potentially be in a post-peace deal Ukraine? The Irish government seems to think so.
We have long experience in the Lebanon, in Africa, in terms of peace monitoring, peacekeeping, and certainly we're all wishing for the end of the war, and Ireland is certainly open to contributing to peacekeeping and to peace monitoring in Ukraine.
But many deem it unlikely that Russia would allow Western European nations in any future peacekeeping force. This isn't just a challenge to recruitment. According to analyst Rory Finnegan, who served in UNIFIL, it's also about the loss of experience.
No matter how robust your training here at home, to try and actually get that wealth and depth of operational experience that can then be brought home and institutionalised within our training institutions and the professional military courses that our people do, it's very hard to replace that as such.
Ireland has the world's longest record of unbroken UN peacekeeping, dating back to 1958. Time is running out to find a new mission to preserve that record and meet what's being seen as a serious challenge to a small but proud military. Stephen Murphy, Sky News in Dublin.
Now, Julia Donaldson's lovable characters have been a staple of Christmas Day television for more than a decade, but a lot of the drama around this year's story happened off-screen after its creator threatened to pull the plug. Well, she spoke to our arts and entertainment correspondent, Katie Spencer.
A wedding
that no one will ever forget.
It is a story by one of the most beloved partnerships in children's literature. While many will receive one of Julia Donaldson and illustrator Axel Scheffler's picture books this Christmas, viewers will also be able to watch one of their biggest sellers brought to life on TV.
This book, Actor's Scarecrow's Wedding, is my favourite of all the ones I've done with Axel.
Is it like having children? Is it hard to pick a favourite?
Yes, it is a bit like that, yeah.
Since Donaldson and Scheffler started writing together back in 1993, theirs is a partnership that's produced over 30 books and endless amounts of joy to young readers, many of whom have their rhymes down pat. So surely only a fool would try to change one of their stories. In order to get the green light for this to be turned into an animation, you'll find what's in here isn't the same as what you see on screen. Now, originally, much to Betty the Scarecrow's horror, the cad character Reginald Rake accidentally starts a fire by smoking a cigar in a field. Now, over a nice lunch, Julia Donaldson was asked by producers if she would consider changing that, to which they got a short response: no. Donaldson was happy to drop this adaptation entirely, but then she got to thinking.
I think I'm the sort of person, when someone puts an idea in my head, I thought, well, I'll just see if it could be done. Maybe he could start the fire in some other way. And I came up with the idea of toasting these marshmallows, which I think is something children will love because they love doing that. And I think it works really, really well.
As ridiculous as the change may seem, Ofcom says it always considers context and freedom of expression, but that while there is no outright prohibition, under our broadcasting rules, smoking must not be featured in programmes made primarily for children unless there is strong editorial justification. Do we sort of live in times where we can be a little bit too sort of patronising of children, or too sort of controlling of sheltering, I guess?
Yeah, well, don't get me started on that. I totally agree. Yeah, I mean, you get told that you can't have any stories anymore about children doing things unchaperoned by an adult, as if people can't distinguish between real life and fiction.
Donaldson knows a thing or two about what works. Together with Scheffler, the iconic duo have sold over 75 million books worldwide and had their stories translated into over 100 languages.
It makes me feel very dizzy when I think about how many children read our stories every night, but I try not to. I think about the next book.
For many, their best will always be the Gruffalo, published in 1999. If you assumed its 2004 sequel, The Gruffalo's Child, was the last we'd hear of that terrible creature with terrible claws, you'd be wrong.
We both said for years and years and years there wouldn't be a sequel, and then Julia suddenly came out with a wonderful story, which I think is great, but I can't say anything about the content. But it's a great text, and it will come out next September.
But for now, fans of the duo, whose work has come to set a benchmark in children's publishing, can sate their appetite for more with this slightly reworked new adaptation. Katie Spencer, Sky News.
Now, some schools in England have been rethinking how they put on Christmas nativity plays, opting for versions that are more inclusive of other faiths. Supporters see it as part of a more modern Britain, but others question if traditional Christian nativities are being sidelined. Our education reporter, Anjum Piabakos, has the story.
In schools up and down the country, familiar scenes are playing out. Tea towels for headscarves, cardboard stars, and nervous parents with phones at the ready. But some schools are modernising their versions of the Nativity, including festive performances and some with no religious themes at all. As changes in the classroom reflect a changing Britain. Some teachers want to bring performances into the 21st century.
It's about not just being a Christian country, which is important, but it's also about celebrating the richness of everything else around it and making sure that every religion, every culture, every belief, whatever it is celebrated.
Not all of these new performances have been well received. Some have been subjected to intense criticism, including racist abuse online, as one school in Inverness, Scotland, experienced recently. Parents here are also concerned.
Racism is nowadays a big problem here in this country. We want to integrate in this society in a positive manner, not in a negative manner.
We've got a feeling something's gonna happen tonight.
But some schools are still keeping things traditional, like this one in South London.
As a Church of England school head teacher, part of my role is to let families and children know the inclusive nature of the Christian faith. And that is part of my role. And I don't shy away from that.
Sing it loud, sing it strong, sing
Parents at this school have appreciated the Christian nativity and want it to stay that way.
I think our children do need to understand what's happening in the world around them, but I think to politicise something for children is also not always the best thing to do.
What's clear is a once simple school play has become a reflection of a much bigger conversation. But the church is open to a variety of interpretations of the Nativity.
I'd encourage schools that are thinking about doing the Nativity in a different way to go for it. What the Nativity story does is it shows us that there's a place for all of us. It's a story of welcome, it's a story of inclusion, it's a story about peace, it's a story about joy, and it's for the whole world.
Who chose... Oh, this one.
For many teachers, it's a delicate balance, preserving tradition while avoiding exclusion. Who's excited? But what's most important is that children are at the heart of the conversation. Anjum Piabakos, Sky News.
Well, let's catch up with the very latest spot. Now, here's Raoul.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan had the right to respond. You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Baghir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
I'm going to take you behind the scenes here for Election Night Live. They have gone up and up.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Ed Conway. Sky News, is anyone going to talk to us? Mortgage rates did go up very sharply during your time in office. Here it is.
First off, just the scale of what we're looking at.
Our data shows it's been happening. Question is why it hasn't been stopped.
So here is Roel then with the sport.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
Sky Mobile sponsors the transfer window on Sky Sports News.
Right.
Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank was all smiles with his teammates today, but his future still seems somewhat uncertain.
Honest, I'm just sick and tired of this.
The number that was put before me was 50% more than our highest paid player at the time.
Jimmy had the feeling, do they really want me here?
My determination was not to sell Jimmy to that particular club.
It made me look bad in front of the fans. It was not necessary.
The biggest single challenge is how we managed his exit publicly, which probably Jimmy didn't like very much.
He's settling into his new surrounds. The player renamed Judas Floyd Money in the Bank when he was drummed out of Ellen Road.
Don't believe the figures at all. Don't believe the figures at all.
Reading the text last night, that was nothing about money from his agent. Well, Jesus, lads, honestly.
I just think he's greedy.
The perception that people have of me, the difficult person, blah, 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 never there. Sometimes things happen for a reason.
Another day, another summer signing. The delightfully named Gerald Floyd Hasselbank from Boa Vista. Jimmy to his pals.
Have you heard about people like Billy Bremner and Norman Hunter and things like that?
No.
You never heard of them?
No.
You'll find out about them.
Yeah, I will find out, but I never heard of them, no.
They tell me you put Jimmy. They call you Jimmy and that's it, is that right?
Yes, they call me Jimmy in Portugal and that's it. I think in the beginning of the season I'm gonna learn about the English football. But I want to make the best of it and score so much goals as possible.
Well, he finished second top goal scorer in Portugal, so he looks as if he's a finisher, which we were lacking goals last season.
We'd been out to look at Bruno Ribeiro. We signed Bruno Ribeiro and Jimmy Floyd Hasselbank. It was £2 million and he was an unknown. And you think to yourself, is that money well spent? Nobody had heard of him.
George Graham said to me, we've got to go down to Lisbon on the Sunday because we were going to watch this player. The player was Jimmy Hasselbank. I remember seeing him in a very run-down, low-key stadium. You knew straight away, there was something there.
And I remember looking at the back of a bus. I was looking and going, who are them two? Because it said the new attack line for, as I said, the men in white. And they said, who are they? And I remember looking, and it was a picture of me and Jimmy.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Raoul, thank you. Now, Christmas can be a difficult time for people who live on their own, particularly older people. Thousands will not have seen a friendly face today eating Christmas dinner alone. Our North of England correspondent, Shingi Mararike, has been finding out what one charity is doing to try to spread some festive cheer.
Must have been cold there in my shadow.
One of the great joys in Rod's life is music. When he sings, he's in his element. But sometimes, while living at home on his own, a different soundtrack sets in, one of loneliness.
My wife died in 2007, and I was rather lost, sitting in this chair actually, not knowing what to do, being frankly very miserable. When you've been out and you go back home and you shut the doors, you're on your own again.
He lost his wife Kathy to cancer, one day after their 39th wedding anniversary. Over the years, one thing that's helped him is the comfort of company and a good chat. He's found that in the form of a free helpline recommended by his counsellor.
I can honestly say I've never ever had a bad call with Silverline. You know, they cheer me up no end, and whoever it is, you know, we just talk about anything and everything, and it's wonderful.
Good afternoon, you're through to the Silverline. Beverly speaking. Who am I speaking to?
My name is Rod Beverly. How are you today?
I'm all right. Hello, Rod. How are you?
On the other end of the phone, 24/7 are people like Bev, whose role at Age UK's Silverline becomes even more important this time of year. She'll be working her 5th Christmas in a row.
We take for granted sometimes, don't we, that Christmas to us is all about celebrating. And, you know, we forget the people that perhaps don't have that network and don't have that support. Some people want to talk about memories. You know, if they've lost a loved one and they're struggling maybe at Christmas time, they can ring and talk us and tell us how they're feeling.
According to Age UK, 670,000 older people won't see or speak to anyone on Christmas Day. Figures the charity says are part of a loneliness crisis, hiding in plain sight. The Silver Line is about social connection and support, not just for this season, but all year round. Last year, they answered more than 3,000 calls nationwide over the Christmas week. Those conversations are vital moments of connection.
We get to almost be a stand-in support network for them. We can share stories and swap memories, and I think that's a big part of it, is reminiscing and the nostalgia around Christmas. And again, it's having that connection to someone to share and express yourself. It means so much to our older callers.
Yes, you.
For some people, like the elderly, Christmas isn't always a celebration. It can remind them of loss and loneliness, which is why the simple joy of feeling heard matters even more this time of year. Shingi Mararike, Sky News.
Well, the Silverline helpline run by Age UK is a free confidential telephone service, and you can reach them on the number below. That is 0800 470 8090, and they're available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Well, before we look at the newspapers, how's this for a Christmas present? One Powerball player in the US state of Arkansas has hit the jackpot, winning a whopping $1.8 billion. Lottery officials have said they won't know who the winner is until at least Monday, because that lucky person has to contact a claims centre in person, which right now is closed for Christmas and won't open till next week. Well, it's time for the press preview, a first look at what is on the front pages. So in the next half hour, we'll see what's making the headlines with the journalist Benjamin Butterworth and the broadcaster and financial analyst Albie Amankona. Lovely to see you both. Happy Christmas to you as well.
Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas, I know. Well, let's see if it's festive.
Yes.
So, front pages then, as ever. King's message is on the cover of the Daily Mirror, pointing out King Charles's hope for the future. The Sun focuses on Andrew Mountbatten Windsor's daughters spending Christmas with the King, without their parents, of course. The Eye looks at the political threat to Labour from Reform UK and the Greens from recent polling. Daily Mail says Labour has been accused of retailers losing out on £1 billion this Boxing Day because of the Chancellor's new taxes. The Guardian leads with what experts are calling a lost decade for progress on parental rights after the paper's research found fewer than 1 in 60 public sector workers are sharing leave with their partners when they have a baby. The Express features the £100,000 in donations from readers for the children's wheelchair charity, WizKids. The Times writes that more homeowners could be hit by the mansion tax as valuations could be overvalued by as much as £30,000. A teacher was referred to the government's anti-terrorism programme after showing Trump videos to his pupils in a US politics class. That makes the front of the Telegraph. And the Star focuses on the Beckham family's ongoing rift, which appeared to continue during Christmas. So let us bring in Benjamin and Albie. Welcome to both of you. Shall we kick off with the King's speech, which no doubt people will have settled down through on their television, or like me, listened to it as I came in on the radio, which is how it was originally designed, obviously. It was a deep one, wasn't it? Let's remember. My faith in our future, Charles inspired by shared values of community heroes from all backgrounds. What did you make of it, first of all, Albie?
I think it was a very unifying speech. So this is, I think, the fourth King's speech that King Charles has done since he took the throne. It was a very unifying speech. He spoke about the fact that he met lots of people across the year from lots of different backgrounds and lots of different faiths. But he felt quite positive about the fact that actually, he felt that despite people's varying backgrounds, lots of people had lots of things that were in common. One of the things which has not been picked up in the paper so much, which struck a chord with me quite a lot, was really his focus on how important it was that we remembered the mistakes that were made during the two world wars, and that we're actually entering a period now where people who remember the Second World War, every year that goes by, there are fewer and fewer of them. And he spoke about the fact that one of the things that he found quite striking on VE and VJ Day was looking at the ages of some of the soldiers who fought in the Second World War, and they were 18, 19 and 20. And I think there's a parallel that can be drawn between remembering the Second World War and what's going on in Ukraine and Russia today.
And indeed so, choosing a Ukrainian choir, singing a Ukrainian carol, you know, picturing members of the royal family who'd gone to Ukraine, having met, we know, Zelensky, you know, over the years. There were sort of subliminal messages in all of this, weren't there?
There was, and some less subliminal. You know, we live in such divided and increasingly angry times, and he talked about not forgetting our values and the diversity that is part of our communities. And I feel like, you know, he was trying to send the message that the sort of anger and the digital anger in this age that we have, we need to take a step back from and share this time with each other, which I think is probably a very valuable message for him to have. And it also feels, I mean, it's not big P political, but it feels like a sort of subtle hint about the kind of country that we need to remember we are, because we live in an age where, you know, people are getting frustrated and divided among their communities. And I think he was trying to set that tone, which he has done on several times in his speeches. And I think he's keen for that sort of community spirit that he will see from touring the country the whole time to try and be maintained. But of course, there was no mention of Andrew or anybody else in that, or anybody of them at church. So, you know, he has his own divisions in the family as well on the background.
Indeed so, and actually you know, that choice of the two daughters of Andrew choosing to be with the firm, as one paper put it, and not with their parents, you know, is quite clear. The double-page spread inside the Times, Andrew's daughters walk tall in a united front. These are hard times for those girls, supported obviously by their husbands and the wider family. But, I mean, it's really difficult for them.
Yes, because both of their parents have had incredibly negative headlines in recent weeks, and most people would say that the negative headlines are justified, but there was questions about where they would be. I don't think it was expected that both Beatrice and Eugenie would be at church this morning, so that was a pleasant surprise for lots of people. But of course, we know that Andrew Mountbatten Windsor was nowhere near. I don't think we know what he was doing today. He certainly wasn't with the family. The girls were there.
I think he
with
was
the rest of the
pictured driving out of Royal Lodge, actually,
Yes.
but we don't know where he went, is it?
Yeah.
That's the point you're making, yeah.
And so it's also a message, I think, from the royal family that they are, you know, together as a family, that they are still unified, that Eugenie and Beatrice are part of that. Because, of course, there were questions over whether their titles would be affected by Andrew no longer being a prince, which isn't the case. And I think, you know, they've put on a solid front in being together, minus their parents.
Yes, we know that other European royal families are smaller than ours and cheaper to run. But actually, when you look at this royal family, it feels like it's getting smaller by the minute in some respects, doesn't it? Obviously, Harry and Meghan have opted to live elsewhere, no longer royals. Andrew and his wife, Sarah Ferguson, you know, no longer called upon as well. What do these two girls do? Well, they've opted to be with the royal family. Are we at a critical point, do you think, for where they go, with popularity having sunk in recent decades?
I think that one of the things that was interesting about today's walkabout was, we're talking about who was there. I think what's actually more interesting is who wasn't there. And you make the very astute point that as the years go on, that this group of royals that seem to be doing this Sandringham and walkabout seem to be getting smaller and smaller each year. And I do feel for the Princesses Beatrice and Eugenie hugely. They would have spent Christmas away from their parents. I don't know if their children were there, but they would have spent Christmas away from their parents. It's the time of the year when families come together. And part of me thinks that even though Andrew has done dreadful things, and he, for all accounts, seems to be like quite a vile man, in my opinion, from reporting that I've seen, it is sad that he was separated from his family at this time of year, and I wonder if there was a way that he could have been at Sandringham but just hidden away from the public, not done the walkabout with the royal family from Sandringham House to the church. Because I think even vile people deserve to be with their families at Christmas. And I think it's quite sad to see him driving from Royal Lodge on his own, whilst his entire family is having a great time at Sandringham.
I mean, he's denied all wrongdoing, hasn't he? The Sun, amid new Epstein scandal, I'll be there for you. Andrew's girls join the King for Christmas. You know, difficult choices for them. But clearly they would like a role for and with the royal family.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's two things here. One is that the royal family needs to be younger and fresher, and people like Beatrice and Eugenie have that. You know, they share quite a bit on their social media. They sort of seem less stale, more fresh than some of the members of the family. But also, of course, it was never going to happen that Andrew should be there, and I disagree. I don't think he should have been. Even vile people should be excluded, to reverse your comment. But, you know, they must be frustrated because, in spite of that, the stories in the newspapers and the ones that naturally draw conversation across the country today will be that Andrew wasn't there, that there's more claims about Andrew's alleged misbehaviour. So they can't really escape the sort of wrath of Andrew headlines, even when he's not present.
And yet the message, as we see from the double-page spread in the Daily Mirror, a timeless message of hope. You know, these were much broader issues he talked about, effectively anti-Semitism, the need for unity amidst division, you know, the bravery, courage amidst adversity in the war generation. You know, the lessons that and this idea of pilgrimage, which he quoted from Pope Leo. It's all sort of, you know, inspirational stuff that we should take forward. That was the intention, wasn't it, from today?
I think there were lots of big picture macro messages in his speech today. But when you compare the big picture macro messages, whether or not we're talking about pilgrimages, whether or not we're talking about unity, whether or not we're talking about remembering the mistakes of the Second World War, I do think they are somewhat tarnished by the difficulties going on within the King's own family, whether or not that is his distance from the Duke and Duchess of Sussex, or the issues going on with his brother Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. And materially, when we think about the situation with former Prince Andrew, you know, what is the material thing that has changed between 2025 and 2023, the last time he did the walkabout? The thing that's changed is the fact the public know about everything that's been going on. I wonder if the King really knows much more today than he knew the last time Andrew did the walkabout in 2023.
Also, of course, Prince William is clearly having a much bigger influence. There have been all sorts of reports that he wants Andrew nowhere near, that he wouldn't be at the next coronation. And so maybe that's one of the things that's changed, that, you know, with the moving down the line of succession, William is having a big impact and wants nothing of his uncle. We saw those awkward pictures of them stood next to each other after, I think it was a funeral.
The Duchess of Kent's funeral.
That was it, yes. And clearly he doesn't want Andrew there. And so I suspect that there'll be no way back for Andrew or for Sarah Ferguson.
Quick move to politics. We've got more after the break economically, but this is about polling, effectively. Britain is entering uncharted territory, and this is speaking to Sir John Curtis, who's the polling expert that we all know and love, who suggests that the fragmentation is really clear right now.
It is. So this is the polling that the UK is entering uncharted territory, according to this polling in the paper by Sir John Curtis, as you mentioned. Essentially, what Sir John is saying is that the Labour Party is under threat from both the Reform Party on the right and also the Conservatives who've recently actually taken over Labour in the polls. I think that's the smaller part of this story, which isn't so much in the headline, but also by the Green Party on the left of the Labour Party. So it's got voters leaving the Labour Party on both sides, and it's unclear which direction they'll take in 2026.
Yeah, he's talking about, 5 parties now with more than 10% of voters, also suggesting that the Tories are overtaking Labour, which we have seen in recent polling. So Keir Starmer is unlikely to see off the challenge of reform unless he can reconnect with the voters lost to the Greens and the Lib Dems. So, I mean, the Reform voters look like they might be lost. He needs to... Does that mean he needs to head left? Is that the point?
I mean, this is the thing, right? We've lived for 40 years in centre-ground politics where you try and pull, maybe a fifth, a third of people to swap parties between the two. But now you've got this splintering with the Greens and the Lib Dems and maybe even the Jeremy Corbyn party, and you've got the same on the right. And so I think the nature of the strategy has to change in order to try and get across the line. The real question, and I think this is reading between the lines of Labour won't survive if it doesn't pull back from Green and Lib Dem defectors as voters, is that Keir Starmer personally won't survive unless he can illustrate that. And I suspect if we are all to be sat here in 12 months' time, that Keir Starmer won't be the Prime Minister. I think that's the real story of what's going to happen in the next 12 months. And it would need somebody that can pull in that cross-section. The other thing, of course, is that actually the Conservatives doing a bit better is a much better news for the Labour Party, because they could do with the Tories polling a slightly higher percentage in order to take back from Reform, because there are many areas where Reform might take Labour seats, but if that vote splits more closely, it will benefit Labour lots in sort of Midlands and Northern seats. So, it's not all bad, but I think every political leader would want to be in Nigel Farage's shoes at the end of this year.
It's all very interesting, isn't it, as we move into next year. Benjamin, Albie, stay there. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme, including, as I said, more politics. Rachel Reeves's £1 billion Boxing Day sales slump. That headline and more to come. Back in a minute.
Right, ready?
Yeah. Yes.
There's nothing in it.
I'm furious about the stroke. Brace yourself. What kind of music do elves enjoy? Rap.
What does Christmas mean to you, Emma?
Kids and chaos. Loved ones.
Plenty of food and wine.
To go home to Australia to be with my family.
Christmas lion. The early starts have been quite a lot.
Goodness. What do you call a snowman's temper tantrum? A meltdown.
It's been with us at Sky News this year. Happy Christmas.
I'm Dominic Waghorn, Sky's International Affairs Editor, covering a world that seems to be unravelling. War, unrest, revolutions.
It's not his country, it's ours.
They have succeeded for the first time in their country's history in removing a leader from power. No freedom! Sky News, the full story first. There was fighting here, but there's clearly now a lull, and they're using it to bring up more ammunition. This is a mass exodus in which Russia is hemorrhaging some of its brightest and its best. According to the local weather channel, there have been more than 2,500 lightning strikes and flash flooding, all on top of this week's lethal tornado. What stays with you most in this job is some of the people you meet. What is your worst fear about what the Russians want to do to the children?
They're just boosting demographics by stealing young people.
Would you like to take the opportunity, Mr. President, on Sky News to invite Barack Obama to come here? Mr. Trump, are you running for president? Can you confirm it?
We're going to take a look, a very serious look.
On that day, we saw your fighters killing women, killing children. Was that a mistake? Did you go too far? You couldn't control your fighters? The full force of the state is being used to crush any protest. Free wherever you get your news. It's half an hour now past the deadline that Hamas issued, and we've now seen a third barrage of rockets coming in. Another alarm. The mood here is jittery and nervous. We're seeing the world get more and more divided, and it's our job to try to make sense of it all.
What's the best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
Who's funnier?
Being a Sky News journalist.
A special edition of The World with me, Yalda Hakim.
Pakistan has the right to respond.
You're like, what?
Historic day here today. Congratulations, this is a huge moment. But what happens now?
The best thing about being a Sky News journalist?
They call him the king of the jungle.
Being a Sky News journalist.
Yusra Al-Bagir has this report.
And this is what's left of it.
As a woman of colour, how did the Harris campaign speak to you?
People risk their lives to speak to us for this report.
Mr. Zuma, Sky News.
We're trying to see as much as we can.
Well, welcome back. You are watching the press preview. I'm joined once again by the journalist Benjamin Butterworth and the broadcaster and financial analyst Albie Amankona. Welcome back to both of you. So, front page of the Daily Mail. Not a great start to the year, has to be said for it. Oh, God, it's like it's New Year's Eve. It's clearly not.
Not a great end
We're
to
going
the
into
year.
Boxing Day. Right. Not great headlines again for Rachel Reeves. They are suggesting that we are not going to go out shopping on Boxing Day, Benjamin, because people are feeling the pinch still, is what they're saying.
So you had me distracted trying to work out what day of the week it is, which is such a classic thing.
I'm sitting there. It's Friday tomorrow.
It's Friday tomorrow. It is Thursday today.
Thursday now, yeah.
And whatever day it is, not as many people will be shopping as expected. So apparently consumer confidence and consumer spending is expected to be down. So Boxing Day, about £3.6 billion will be spent in the sales. But that's which sounds like rather a good day to me. Yeah, it must be one of the biggest selling days of the year, but that's £1 billion off what they would have projected and what they happened last year. Now, I suppose this must include, online sales, but I do think increasingly well, I was surprised in the run-up to Christmas. First of all, the sales had started a lot earlier, so maybe that will affect Boxing Day because people have already got good prices on whatever they wanted or didn't want to buy. And then also, people are going online. And so I think often you think, oh, well, the shops aren't so busy. But, of course, half of what we buy is not in the shops in the first place. But the Daily Mail goes with the angle that this is Rachel Reeves' fault because there's also evidence that lots of people are being more careful about their spending because they're worried about tax changes and job rates going down, and that's making them nervous for the new year.
Employment generally, I guess. Maybe we've just got enough staff, don't you think? I mean, we've had the Black Friday sales. People, as you said, the sales started earlier. There was concern a week ago about footfall in the run-up to Christmas. But maybe we just don't need all of this shopping. You looking at me with horror then, actually.
I am. I mean, I'm a great lover of stuff. I'm big into consumer culture. And I suppose the question is whether or not this slump in Boxing Day sales is as a direct result of Rachel Reeves' budget, as the Daily Mail, a newspaper that is on the centre-right, would like us to believe, or whether or not it's part of a broader macroeconomic trend whereby year on year. Sales are getting earlier. Black Friday is actually in November. A lot of the deals that used to be available from the 26th onwards are now basically available for the entirety of December. I bought a wonderful vacuum cleaner for my mother, which was half price, which wouldn't have been half price if I'd have bought it. It was her Christmas present.
So now she knows it's half price.
Oh, God, about that. Mum, I hope you're not watching. But it was a great deal. And the point is that that vacuum cleaner would not have been on sale 10 years ago before Christmas. But it is on sale now before Christmas. So there's this trend of people buying sales items before Christmas as opposed to after Christmas. Then you've got the issue of footfall, which is just coming down year on year because more people are shopping online. And then you've got the issue of the cost of living crisis with people not spending as much.
There's a smorgasbord of economic news on the page 2 of the Times, one of which is Boxing Day sales to be down by $1 billion, which is this news here. And then it goes on to say that the UK will overtake Japan to become the world's 5th largest economy by the end of the next decade. So that doesn't sound as bad as the mood music, you know, pre and post budget, does it?
This is so. I mean, we're so miserable about our own economy in this country when, you know, there are real challenges, but it's not in the doldrums. It's just in a moment of struggle. And so we will become the 5th largest economy again. The gap will grow larger with countries like India, China, the US accelerating, but we have a growth to come, partly because of demographic changes, so immigration will help.
And just to rub it in, the Telegraph tells us that pet owners are paying almost £10,000 to travel alongside their animals, albeit on private jets. So someone out there can afford to do that anyway. Both of you, thank you very much indeed. Benjamin, Albie, we will see you in the next hour. Thank you. Lots more still to come in the next part of our programme. More on the King's call for kindness, compassion and hope in his Christmas broadcast.